Hey, this is Tracy Lewis with Stuff and Things. Welcome to episode 5 of Winter is Coming Wednesday. Here is a clip of two deer that were just walking alongside me as I was taking the golf cart to pick up the mail. So let's get started with something a little different for this episode. All right, so for this May edition of Winter is Coming Wednesday, I am going to shift gears a little bit and do a custom card so that I can demo for you how I would use the Stamparatus for an advanced card where I'm taking bits and pieces from multiple stamps to create a custom scene. So this is one of my new annual catalog products that I purchased. He's all that. I want to make a special Christmas card using this bus and another special Christmas card using the old car. And I'm going to not use any of the text on the VW, and I am going to use the word classic on the card. And here's my inspiration. It actually is my own card from January, episode 1, which had a VW bug. So I am going to, these items are retired. It was an SAB stamp set, and the little presents I created my own. So this is a very custom set of cards. I will probably not even finish them today because just demoing the Stamparatus will take plenty of time. So I may go ahead and release the video this month without the cards finished, and then I will take my time and finish them up, and we'll put photography of the finished cards over in the June edition. So I'm using again these two vehicles, following the inspiration of the vehicle, the VW Bug, and then I have this stamp set that I want to take some words from. And I will show you, I've got some stamped images I was playing with. I stamped these so that I could gauge the thickness of the lines. I want to make sure when I replicate my own packages to go on top of each of these vehicles that I get the line thickness correct. Notice also with the bus, I did not include the surfboard because I want to put a package of presents on the top of it. So the first one I made is this set of packages. You can use any thin multi-liner. The trick for me was to have the right thickness. Right now I have 0.1 and 0.5 of these water and Copic proof multi-liner pens. Not knowing how I'm going to color them yet, I will probably, because they're so dainty, I might even use watercolor pencils with a little bit of the colorless blender, this particular blender. But as I said, this is going to be focusing on the Stamparatus because the whole creation of the whole card in its entirety will take too long. And so I went ahead and I've got a pile of packages to go on top of that one. Then I mimicked, this first one was a very close mimic to the VW. As you can see, I did my own shapes, and in a different order, but I kind of did the presents in the same dimensions. Then for the next one, it actually took me a couple more tries to get the dimensions of the second one figured out. I have already done a very loose mock-up so that I could figure out how tall I wanted the presents. And so this is my mock-up for the old car. The VW I won't need to do too much with, so I'm not even going to demo how I would line that up, because my demo of how I will line up all the pieces for the front view of the old car, I will use the same strategy to do whatever the wording. I haven't even figured out the wording on the VW bus yet. All right, so getting out the Stamparatus. There are probably a lot of different ways that you can do this, but my idea was to not waste paper and not have to, you know, get some copy paper, which is one strategy. So you could do this either the copy paper method or the method that I'm recommending, which actually just allows you to make a lot of small edits to your layout without killing a tree. So what I do, even though these stamps are all rubber, they're not poly, I am going to use this, which I bought a special grid version of this. You could stamp it on, if you don't have it, you can use this plastic. It will wipe off just as well. The idea is to have the grid lines to help you do some lining up. So taking my Mini Marvelous Stampin' Right marker in black, just because it's handy, you could use any color you want for mocking this up. I have only certain, I want just the word classic and just the classic car. So I aligned it where I wanted it. I had already hand stamped this and I laid it down, rough placement here. So I'll actually do this because it's interesting. So placing this over my pre-mock-up that I did stamp on a piece of paper. And I needed, you know, I could have just stamped this, but I actually need to verify what I stamped. So I attach it and I ink up the car and the word classic, and then I stamped it. And I didn't even ink it up all the way because I just don't want to waste the ink and make it all messy, but I do want to have this placement on my practice mat that is erasable, or you can wipe it off with the chamois, because now I'm going to, you can write little notes. I could say that, you know, I want to center between these two lines, and I can see that the car, if I was really picky, I would technically move the car over like a sliver, not even a 1/16 of an inch. You can see that the front bumper is like a hair closer to that line than it is to that other line, but I just took it and said it would be close enough. And even the word classic, a teeny tiny indecipherable difference between the sides, because now I want to line up my second stamp, which is the wording. I need the word Christmas, and then I need the word have a to be lined up. Because I know I have the presents, I also have to deal with the height. What is the correct height? So when I set the top of the car, you may or may not be able to see it as clearly as I see it. Here's the top of the car. I want to have a little breathing room for the have a, and I want it to be centered between these little arrows that I made. And I then switch. I have multiple plates. You might not have multiple plates. You might have to just flip to the other side. And I did that actually. So one stamp is going to do, I want just the have a. The bottom Christmas is from the same stamp. So I was thinking to myself, how am I going to know exactly where, if I have the stamp positioned properly for the have a, which I decided I would outline on this plastic with the Many Marvelous marker, Stampin' Right markers, fine tip side. So there's where I wrote what my placement is. For the Christmas, that is what I have on my second plate. You might not have enough plates to do this, and you might have to flip the plate and figure out the placement for the have a. This will also work really well, by the way, for multiple cards of the same variety. So I have an outline of the stamp right here. If I flip this to the other side, I need to put the stamp for Christmas underneath. And if I finish my to a classic, I can go ahead and do my placement of the word Christmas. I'm going to just simulate it. do my line, because you can see there's the line, and maybe that's where the stamp goes. So there's the stamp for the word have a flipped. Then you flip it the other way, and here's where I want the stamp to go for Christmas, and I would have to pop off the classic car. But because I have extra plates, I don't have to do that. I will get to take this particular one, and I will show you that I already figured out its placement. And I've already outlined where its placement is going to be, so that I can go ahead and interchange it between the two plates. And now I'm going to test this. So I went through and I did all of my fancy lining up, and I'm going to take, I have to be careful not to lose my presents. I'm going to put both presents in this little cup back here that you can't see. All right, so let's just take the back of the bus. I am going to start with the properly placed Christmas. At this point, I've already mocked it up, and I've already got my placement right. Now, what I could do is visually double check that Christmas appears to be in the correct place, and it actually, I'm looking at it here. It appears as though I might have adjusted it over some, and it's over too much. So I am going to, using my chamois, I will show you my lineup. I am erasing the mark that I had put. I'm going to lay down on my mock-up where I want this to be. Attach it. I'm gonna add a little bit of ink using the brush nib over the word Christmas. I don't need the whole word. I'm not picky at this point. This is just a mock-up. And I'm going to touch it. And it looks to me like it's over like 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to, out of view from what you guys can see, I'm going to move it over a teeny bit. Interesting. Okay, and I'm going to check it. Kind of am curious about the S and the C is my main things I want to test. All right, so I got dark lines where I want. There and there, and now I'm looking, and I think the S is a little too high. So I can shift. Again, this is for a card that I want to do a lot of, or I'm doing a very special layout for a special person. And this, in this case, it is for my stepfather, who loves to rebuild old cars. That's what his gig is, and I always send him his own card, separate from my mom's. It's just kind of a thing I do for him. I've got my classic I want to place this around, and now I'm going to look, and that lines up perfectly, focusing on where the placement of the C and the S is underneath the word classic. Again, making sure that I don't ink up any of the words that I don't want inked. Using the side of the pen. All right. That is finished. We still have the word Christmas. Now I'm going to re-ink the word Christmas. I haven't cleaned it yet. Make sure my paper is in the corner that I want it in. Now I have the last word to put down, and that's have a. I will clean. And I need to be very careful with my cleaning. I'm gonna actually redo my chamois, which has become dry. And I will be... Okay, I got my stamp very clean. I now need to move it to my other I'm gonna take this guy off. Nope, we're gonna leave him on. I used my die marker. I wouldn't use permanent, and I have made an outline on the top that you should be able to see right there. That outline is the outline that I want to place this on. And I just outlined it literally going around with the thin part of the marker just like this. And I see that I am needing to move a little bit this way. And I'm going to test it, because this I want to be my final. I can test it. I already know I want to be between those markings, my arrows that I left. I'm going to carefully mark the letters I want, focusing mostly on the H and the A. And it's a little bit off to the left, so I'm going to go ahead and move it to the right. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean this. Knowing where I want to be. I've got that line. And that line. I want to be in the middle of those two. Now, I still have some ink on there. That looks pretty good. I could even be really picky and say that I can move it over here, or I could give it a whirl, but I'm thinking it needs to be over a little bit more. And that is become a little crooked on me. The nice thing that I am showing here is that you can stamp this. Oh, that's almost perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and leave that. Already down here, remember, I was a little bit off to the left, just a smidge, and that's a little bit off to the left, so I'm gonna call that good. I will do a fresh inking very carefully. Although the Hava is not close to any other text, so it's probably safe. Make sure my final cardstock is upper right. And the final test. So at this point, you've already got your layout the way you want. there are my presents that I'm going to color. And voila, we're done. And just in case you may want to recreate this card at some point, there is the grid paper that you can purchase. I've got the part number and the page number. This was kind of a late ad. I thought, just in case, I better mention that this is available to you. So when you're stamping each stamp in your process, after you get it placed perfectly, be sure to slip in this grid paper to make a copy that you can then keep and file it away. Let me know what you think of this tactic. It has worked well for me. I like to fuss. I don't like to just ink up a bunch of cardstock unnecessarily or copy paper unnecessarily. So this ended up being a really good way for me to be able to build out this card the way I want it. And now I will play with what I'm going to use to finish this card off. And I will come back with photography for this next month. Tell me what you think. Does this work for you? Is it too messy? Is it clean? What strategies have you used to do custom bits and pieces from various stamps to get a nice stamped image with any text you want? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.